On this week's Vaticano, we bring you the second edition of our staff's choices for the best pieces of art, food and faith so far in 2015. Ahead of the Year of Mercy, we hear from a Vatican cardinal on the importance of the special graces available from indulgences. 150 homeless from Rome get a private tour of the Sistine Chapel. Also, a German college in the Vatican renews a mosaic that draws one's thoughts to heaven. We take a look at a 2015 Pope Francis stamp, see the relics of Christ's Passion on display in a Roman basilica, all this plus an open-air museum that includes sacred murals. Now on Vaticano.
Lent is an opportune time for conversion and reparation. Reparation can be made not just purely spiritually, but also materially, for example, with indulgences. Indulgences are a remedy which can be obtained under certain conditions to make reparation for harm caused by sin. Sin is forgiven in confession, but the damage caused sometimes remains. Therefore, the Church gives an opportunity to cure the wound caused.
Indulgences are great. They are directly linked to the merits of the death and resurrection of our Lord Jesus Christ and the pains of the Blessed Virgin Mary, who stays with Jesus at the foot of the cross. The true treasure of the Church is not the Eor, the Vatican Bank, but the indulgences. It lies here, in the merits of Jesus Christ and all good souls, the holy souls, who are in the world and who offer their pain up for the sake of the Church.
This cardinal heads the Church's Office for Penitential Acts, the Apostolic Penitentiary. They also deal with priests asking for help in difficult cases encountered in confession, how to deal with them and how to find a way to give absolution. With their counsel, solutions are sought and communicated to the person in need.
Every morning we gather for the so-called Congress, which we do at 10, since we have to wait for the mail to come in. We try to answer all requests within 1 or 2 days, since the grace of God is concerned, of which we are only administrators. We try not to wait. It was the Lord who spilled His blood for us, and we do not want to withhold this blood with its salvific power from the people who need it for a peaceful conscience. For us, solutions have to be unanimous. We have to reach unanimity. We can discuss, but then we have to decide, also to give peace of mind to the confessor. If no unanimity is reached, the great penitentiary can decide after having considered all possibilities. And so be it.
Pope Francis himself often urges the faithful to return to confession. Last year he went to confess himself in public.
We seek to bring most fruit from this approach on the wave of our mediation of the Pontiff, to bring people closer to the confessional and to convince priests to be always more available to hear confessions. I think this is essential and important. Also, the penitential initiative which we have organized with the Holy Father a little before Easter, in fact just in a couple of weeks, in St. Peter's, wants to be, with all due respect, a re-glamorization of the sacrament.
The Cardinal has a simple piece of advice for all people this Lent.
Convert and believe in the Gospel.
Last week, 150 homeless persons received a special ticket for the Vatican museums, given by the Office for Papal Charities. Before heading into the museums, the homeless guests passed through the Vatican city-state and by the Santa Marta guest house, where Pope Francis lives. They continued on into the museums in the Sistine Chapel, where they received an explanation of Michelangelo's infamous frescoes and prayed together. They were accompanied by Mother Teresa's Little Sisters of the Poor. In addition to food, umbrellas, sleeping bags, showers, and haircuts, the Vatican has therefore offered Rome's homeless the gift of beauty.
Right next to St. Peter's Basilica is a small piece of Germany, the German college known as the Teutonic Camposanto. Here, an old image that crowns the doorway leading to the cemetery has just been brought back to its original splendor.
We are on the back side of the Campo Santo, right by St. Peter's Basilica on the one side and the audience hall of Paul VI on the other side. Only those pilgrims pass by here that are heading to meet the Pope in the audience hall. So we are in the back, and this is an ancient fresco, renovated with financial help from Germany, a fresco from the end of the 17th and the beginning of the 18th century. So we see this in the portal, up above a fresco of Mary.
The location of the work is particularly significant.
Right by this building in the 17th century, there was a great central gate for the pilgrims to pass into the cemetery. On the left side, there was an oratory, a prayer room, that was used by the brothers and sisters of the confraternity, very vibrant in those days. So additionally to the church, there was a prayer room dedicated to the Immaculate Conception. There you have the connection to the fresco, which shows the Immaculate Conception. So the image crowned the portal, so to say, a portal to paradise, since the gate leads to the cemetery. May angels guide your way to paradise. For us Christians, a cemetery is a paradise garden, in the deepest sense.
The Germans living here say they're proud of their little piece of Germany inside the Vatican's walls.
The initiative is somewhat linked also to the double-headed eagles that flank the image left and right, that recall the privilege of the precious place that is a small spot of the Holy Roman Empire of German nation right here. We're not in Germany, but we belong to the German speakers.
Only pilgrims making their way to the audience hall can admire the image, and one more very special person.
One person can see this image as he makes his way regularly down this road from his house to the audience hall, and that is the Holy Father, Pope Francis. He is basically our neighbor, or better, we are the neighbors of Pope Francis. He lives in the Casa Santa Marta, 50 meters from here, and he usually goes by foot to the gatherings. Stay with us. After the break, we will show you a stamp dedicated to Pope Francis. Welcome back. This is Vaticano. A children's novel has been presented in Rome, telling the story of a poor young boy with a dream. This book, my second one, is about a boy here in Rome who lives in poverty, but who is a dreamer. He has a lot of dreams, and although people tell him that dreams are only dreams and that he needs to stop dreaming, he continues working towards his dreams. A priest helps the boy, as well as his parents, with their situation. What happens is that one of his most important dreams comes true, which is his dream of getting out of poverty and meeting someone who is very special to all Christians. Without giving too much away, the person in question is the Pope. That can be said. He meets Pope Francis. Two children inspired me to tell this story and write this book. The first is a boy who met Pope Francis during his trip to Brazil and told him with tears in his eyes and a lot of emotion that he wanted to be a priest. And the second boy who inspired me was a boy who took the seat of Pope Francis during the meeting of the families here at the Vatican. Actually, in one of the chapters, a boy takes the seat of the Pope. The closeness that children feel towards the Pope, that humility, that freedom to keep dreaming. The age doesn't matter. One can be 5 years old, 24, 58, or 101. The important part is to never stop dreaming and to make our dreams about God. The book does not have a price. Instead, it is a voluntary donation. We have put the book at 10 euros, above all because we're giving this donation to a missionary from a parish with whom we have an alliance with. The book is called Lorenzo, the Bellboy, and is available in Spanish and can be ordered online.
Here in the Vatican City Government building in the center of the world's smallest state, special occasions are commemorated with stamps and coins, recording history in a way that can be shared.
We do it in occasion of the travels of the Pope, always of the voyages of the years past, and then in occasion that have a special meaning for the pontificate. 25 years of priesthood in the case of John Paul II. We did one for his 25th year of his pontificate and 50 years of being a priest. We have stamps with the reigning popes, deceased popes, or in the case of Benedict with the resigned pope, even though he had not been pictured after his resignation. We also do emissions of public interest, like the 125th anniversary of the birth of Charlie Chaplin, for example.
This year, a special collection was published on Pope Francis.
They have 4 values. Since 4 years ago, we have decided to dedicate stamps to the Pope using images or photography. This series is highly anticipated by the market and also by the tourists that come to the Vatican, especially those that want to send postcards or letters home. So with great pleasure, we create stamps that can be bought all year round. We have shown him dressed as he usually appears in public, in white. 2 are showing him during a religious function, and 1 shows him with a child in his arms, a demonstration of his love and tenderness.
John Paul II's canonization was another occasion for a stamp.
For John Paul II and John XXIII, we have done more than one series. In the case of John XXIII, we have done one in collaboration with the state, and in the case of John Paul II, we have one in collaboration with Poland. For these 2, we have also a sheet in which they're both represented, and I think from a philatelist standpoint, they came out really beautifully. For this very important event, the most important event of the year, 2014.
And of course, the Synod for the Family merits a commemorative coin.
There will be a coin of 10 euros for which we have chosen a subject which I will gladly give a preview of, because it is an interesting subject. We will show on the coin the kiss of Saint Joachim and Saint Anne. Joachim and Anna are the grandparents of Jesus and are shown by Giotto in the Cappella degli Scrovegni with a beautiful conjugal kiss, with a kiss of deep love, and therefore serve well as a symbol of love that can stay alive even amongst grandparents.
Every year, set events like Christmas, Easter, and Pentecost are commemorated, and a handful of other events are celebrated with stamps throughout the year. In Rome, tools employed in the crucifixion of Christ are able to still be seen today. As the Church remembers Jesus' final moments on earth, the faithful can venerate the relics of his passion and death. It was Saint Helena, the Emperor Constantine's mother, who brought many of these passion relics from Jerusalem to Rome, like the Holy Stairs, those leading up to the Praetorium, on which Christ was judged by Pontius Pilate. Today the stairs are here in Rome's city center, covered by a layer of wood. Faithful climb them on their knees in prayer. Another church, Rome's Basilica of Santa Croce in Gerusalemme, is home to parts of the true cross, a piece of the crown of thorns, and the famous sign that hung on the cross, presenting Christ as King of the Jews. St. Praxedes, yet another church in Rome, holds what tradition claims to be the column of Christ's scourging.
In the wake of the Sixth Crusade, in the early years of the 13th century, Cardinal Giovanni Colonna, who was a member of family, very important, he was a cardinal and appointed by Pope Innocent III, man from a very powerful and important family. And when he returned to Rome in the year 1223, some sources say 1228, he brought with him this column, which he claimed to be a piece of the column against which Christ was scourged, as recounted in the Gospels.
Some sources dispute the authenticity of this specific piece of memory.
The best we can say is that it seems highly unlikely that it is authentic because the building, the Gospels don't say exactly where the flagellation of Christ took place. The building would have been almost certainly a Roman structure, probably the Praetorium itself that is referred to as the place where Pontius Pilate lives and works.
But questionable authenticity does not diminish the faith of the people.
I think it is still very much the case that one can venerate these objects even where their authenticity has been called into question. First of all, one mustn't think of this as a conscious fraud on the part of Cardinal Colonna, or the people who received it as a relic of the flagellation. But also in terms of the way we venerate these things, the Western tradition uses these things basically the way the Byzantine tradition uses icons in venerating the object. You aren't venerating the object for its own sake necessarily, but rather as an expression of and a sort of realized presence of the thing or the event that you are on, or I should say the person or the thing that you are. Sorry, let me say it. The person or the event that it represents. And I think the best expression of this is actually in our liturgical tradition, that in the Western Rite, our tradition is that during the liturgy, during the Mass, we incense the relics and not the images. And for the Byzantines, it's the other way around. They incense the images, icons, and not the relics. And in that sense, it is the living presence, the realized presence of, in this case, the Passion of Christ, the flagellation as one aspect of that passion, among us, so that even if it isn't authentic, we are still honoring the Passion of Christ by venerating it as such. And in that sense, I say, yes, it absolutely does remain a perfectly valid part of our tradition.
Solemnity characterizes the Lenten period, but every Catholic will join the Universal Church in its joy during Easter.
Stay tuned. In a few moments, you can enter an open-air museum in Rome.
Can graffiti be art? Larger-than-life-sized spray-painted images adorn the outside walls of one of Rome's poorest and infamous quarters.
Tormarancia is what I don't like to call a periphery, but let's call it less central than other parts of town. The City Hall built houses here which are not ugly but have some solid structure, which in recent years has been understood by the inhabitants and by the city as less fortunate. We are in a new paradise, in a paradise in which we have contributed with beauty and with art to make a sense of solidarity, sociality, closeness amongst people, of those people who society marginalizes and creates a ghetto and pushes away. For me, this is the main instrument of doing so.
Big City Life is an initiative that wants to bring joy to the poorest with beauty, among them an image of the Mother of God.
This piece was done by an Italian street artist whose name is Mr. Clevera. He's an engineer, he works for an energy company, and he does this in an elusive way. Nobody knew he was a street artist. Now, due to the fame, everybody knows. The peculiar fact is that he's an expert of Byzantine iconography. And this is absolutely strange, because Byzantine iconography is something nobody loves. It's very simple, it's really meaningful for the old times, but now it's something really unused. Young artists prefer strong colors, you know, pop-oriented colors. And this was quite unique as a resource for us to represent something which could be really meaningful for people here. We are in Italy, we have a Catholic tradition, we are in the city of Pope, and we thought to place Virgin Mary in this place could be something very powerful.
Initially not well accepted by the local parish, the image will be blessed, and in fact it already works as a channel of grace.
There was initially a homily against this image, also because Tor Marancha has a connection to Mary of Lourdes, so this Our Lady of Shanghai was not initially welcomed. But then Don Mauro came here and he met with the artist. Now there will be the blessing of this Madonna during the month of Mary in May.
Adesso ci sarà la benedizione della Madonna da parte di Don Mauro durante il mese mariano.
There is a woman living here. She cannot smoke due of her health problems. She still smokes, but she used it to exit from the compound, passing here, and now, due to the Virgin Mary, she could not. So she stopped to smoke due to this painting.
Yet another image is much darker, showing two wrestlers actually on the outside wall of the complex, making it visible to passers-by. The artist has similar origins to those of Pope Francis.
Jazz, it's his artistic name, but his real name is Franco Fasoli. He's Argentinian, but he has Italian origins, and that's what the wall painting is about. What we can see is Argentinian wrestler, fighter, on his shoulders an Italian fighter. The fighter, it's because the jazz work is all about the fighting for rights, fighting for life. It's all about the natural instinct of fighting to reach, to achieve our goals. And so this is the common theme on all his body of work. In this case, what we see, this representation is about the heaviness of Italian history, seen by an Argentinian artist coming to paint for the first time in Rome.
The Big City Life initiative consists of 20 spray paintings overall, all being about 1,500 square feet in size. ISIS has forced more than 1.2 million Christians, Yazidis, and Shia Muslims from their homes in Iraq under threat of death or heavy fines if they do not convert. Many of them live in poor conditions in refugee camps. During Holy Week, a special envoy from the Pope made a visit to the battered people.
This trip is important because it's the presence of the Holy Father among the people that are in suffering. The Holy Father is very preoccupied about the situation in this area, in Iraq and in this area. Most of all with the displaced people. There are families, thousands and thousands of families that lost this land, the house, and the job and the life, their life. To go to a land that they don't know what is the situation.
Monsignor Tejado took an image of Mary untie her of knots to the Iraqis as a sign of hope during this liturgical time, remembering the resurrection of Christ.
The Pope blessed us two images of this Our Lady that unties the knots, and he said to us to bring them his presence, his prayer. The presence of, most of all, of the Holy Lady. She was in the moment of the resurrection, and she can bring the people that are in the suffering, in the cross, the witness of the resurrection. We are now in the East season, in the East Holy Week, and this trip wants to be a sign of the presence of the Lord among the people that are in suffering and in this difficult moment of their lives, and the presence of the Holy Father and of the Church.
The refugees are helped by Catholic organizations such as Caritas, who work tirelessly to improve health and hope.
We meet the agencies, Catholic agencies of the aid and the charity, Caritas and another organizations that are involved there in the job. Their job is really amazing, it's fantastic, the job that they did. They are our arms, no? We cannot go to Iraq to help those families, but we have our arms that are the Catholic agencies. And I profit this occasion, that television, to ask the people to to have solidarity, charity with those terrible situation, humanitarian situation that lives in Iraq, in Syria, that you know is when the television speak about those problems, there are a lot of aid, but now in this moment maybe somebody forget that the situation as we see is really very difficult and very important to be present there, the church and we to be present with our friends that are our brothers and sisters that are in the suffering.
Pope Francis has spoken out numerous times, assuring his closeness to those affected by extremist violence in both the Middle East and Iraq.